Good evening, Boys State. Let's all hear it. Good evening, Boys State. Did you have a good day? Oh, let's hear yes, ma'am. Did you have a good day? All right. Well, first things first, I'm going to bring up Assistant Director Robbie Robinson.
You guys are probably getting tired of seeing me already, aren't you? You will. You will. Okay, tonight we have very special guests here, and we have a very special program we're going to put on for you, and this will be put on by your class, the class of 2017 American Legion Mountaineer Boys State. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to tonight's commander, Jacob Martin.
Good evening. We are gathered here for a very important, patriotic, and solemn purpose. Here to witness the presentation of the flag of our country, Old Glory, the Stars and Stripes, our flag, to West Virginia University by American Legion Mountaineer Boys State, class of 2017, Sergeant at Arms.
Attention! Forward march! Present flags. Forward march!
Let us stand for the invocation. If I may call the chaplain, Patrick Duffy, to say prayer.
Let us pray. Most gracious Father of us all, from whom comes all help and blessings, look upon us gathered here, and with thy favor, direct us in all our action. Grant to us vigilant hearts, give us minds to know thee. We ask that you place your hand on all here and across our nation, and let this flag fly free in your name. Amen.
Amen.
We will now have a reading of Your Flag and My Flag by Wilbur D. Nesbitt. The reading will be done by Matteo Cersoli.
Your Flag and My Flag by Wilbur D. Nesbitt. Your flag and my flag, and how it flies today, in your land and my land, and half a world away. Rose red and blood red, the stripes forever gleam, snow white and soul white, the good forefathers' dream. Sky blue and true blue, with stars to gleam aright, the glory guide on of the day, a shelter through the night.
We are here to present a flag to West Virginia University. This university shows true Americanism and is a great supporter of the American Legion Mountaineer Boys State. They are always ready to help and work with this program. The American Legion Mountaineer Boys State class of 2017 will present the new flag. The flag will be presented by Governor Niall Deal. It is a great privilege It it is a great privilege and pleasure to have the honor of presenting this beautiful symbol of our country. The flag of the United States of America, the Stars and Stripes, to West Virginia University. On behalf of the American Legion Boys State in the class of 2017, may it always fly over our land, representing government instituted by our founding fathers that will always champion freedom and justice. We will now present our beloved state flag. It is with honor and pride that this beautiful flag of the great state of West Virginia is also presented to West Virginia University. On behalf of the American Legion Mountaineer Boys State, class of 2017. May it ever remind you of her rolling hills, flowing rivers, majestic mountains, and that mountaineers are always free. In honor of what we have witnessed here today, we will now honor America by receiving the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Afterwards, please remain standing for the playing and singing of the Star-Spangled Banner.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That concludes our flag presentation ceremony. We all know that there will be a fresh, bright new flag of our nation flying tomorrow, and long may it wave. We will now have our benediction.
Let us pray. Almighty God, leader over all, bless and consecrate this gathering. We thank you for our country, its flag, and the liberty for which it stands, one nation under you. May you grant us peace and freedom as we live for God and country. Amen.
Amen.
This now concludes the flag ceremony. You may be seated.
Thanks for your attention. Your classmates did pretty good at that, didn't they? Yes, sir. Right? All right. Well, I'm up here to introduce a person that most of you know. He's going to come up here for the purpose of an introduction, Mr. Blake Humphreys. He's going to be, go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. this is a fun introduction, and I don't really think it's needed, but I'll go ahead and do it anyway because I was asked to. My name's Blake. I'm the political party advisor for the Federalists here at Mountaineer Boys State. Half the room's booing because they're nationalists, and the other half are cheering me because we're doing a good job. I'm a 2013 Boys State graduate and a 2013 Boys Nation graduate as well. I'm from Wheeling, West Virginia, and I just recently graduated from West Virginia University with 2 degrees in political science and economics. I'm forgetting something. What else? Oh, I'm the student body president at West Virginia University. I do that on the side as well. I've had the honor and privilege of working with this person that I'm introducing for the past couple of years. And real quickly, I'll go through his bio with all of his amazing accomplishments. Dr. E. Gordon Gee is one of America's most prominent higher education leaders, having helmed universities for more than 3 decades. In 2009, Time magazine named him one of the top 10 university presidents in the United States. In 2014, Dr. Gee returned to West Virginia University, where his career as a university president began. His leadership goals include putting students first, advancing the university's research agenda, partnering with West Virginia communities, and making sure that 1.8 million West Virginians know their hearts and minds at West Virginia University and that it's their university. Born in Vernal, Utah, Gee graduated from the University of Utah with an honors degree in law and earned his JD and doctorate in education degrees from Columbia University. He clerked under Chief Justice David T. Lewis of the U.S. 10th Circuit Court of Appeals before being named a judicial fellow and a staff assistant to the U.S. Supreme Court. In this role, he worked for Chief Justice Warren Berger on administrative and legal problems of the court and federal judiciary. He then returned to Utah as an associate professor and associate dean of the J. Reuben Clark Law School at Brigham Young University and was granted full professorship in 1978. I've read that a couple times. I'm going to have to memorize that the next time I read it. I wanted to read a quick excerpt, though, that came from something that I read, and it's something that I think really speaks to the president as well. And it reads as follows. Dr. Gee is progressive, optimistic, and pragmatic. He appreciates and values the diverse patchwork of students that make our university a center of learning and knowledge. He knows that without a robust student community, there will not be a robust university. Gee has been at WVU for 2 years. I think when the time this was written it was 2, it's now 3. And his ideas and visions are coming to life. In 5 years, I guarantee we will see a better, healthier, and more dynamic West Virginia University. His leadership, vision, and drive are helping to create and foster a climate of change at WVU while also appreciating and respecting the traditions that make West Virginia University the truly special place that it is. Without further ado, because I know that he has a lot to say and it'll be a lot of fun too, I give to you the president of West Virginia University, Dr. E. Gordon Gee.
I want to say a few things. Then I really like to take questions because that to me is much more fun. I'm tired of hearing myself speak. Blake, thank you very much for that introduction. That's exactly the way I wrote it. Very helpful. We have 2 former student body, or 1 present student body president and a former. Where's George Capel? Are you here, George? There he is, right there. There's George. George was student body president 2 years ago. And the university survived George, so it was great. Yeah, just barely. So, Blake, you know, I haven't told this story before, but I'll have to tell it because your introduction reminds me of that. So, when I was president of Ohio State, I would visit a number of communities, and there was a great town called Chillicothe, Ohio. And so I would visit this town, and it was always lots of fun. But there's this true story about Chillicothe. In the early 1900s, they were going to celebrate their 100th anniversary as a city. And so they were trying to decide what they were going to do, and finally they decided they needed to have a great celebration, a centenary celebration, and they were going to invite a very distinguished person. They couldn't figure out who to invite, and finally they invited William Howard Taft. Now, William Howard Taft, for those of you who know your American history, was the governor of Ohio, and the governor general of the Philippines, and then the president of the United States, and then the Chief Justice of the United States. So he was the only person in the history of this country, you go, wow, you're friends with this, I know that they'll just be very impressed, was both the chief elective officer, president, and the chief judicial officer, Chief Justice. And so they sent him a telegram, Mr. Chief Justice, would you come? He accepted, and then all of a sudden they looked around, and they had no one like Blake, who was distinguished enough to introduce him, so they thought about it for a while, and finally they determined, Blake, that they were going to invite a very distinguished lawyer from New York who had served in the United States Senate. His name was Chauncey Depew. Great name. And so they sent him a telegram. He came back, said he'd love to come and introduce him. And so on the day, they got up, everything was ready, and he got up to introduce him. Unfortunately, the introduction went on for 45 minutes. I mean, people were falling in their soup. Their eyes were rolling. It was a hot day. And so finally he got to the end of his introduction. He said, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the Chief Justice of the United States. Now, one of the things you have to know about William Howard Taft is not only was he a great American, he was a large American. He weighed over 300 pounds. He was huge. And so they said, and so Chauncey Depew said, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you the Chief Justice of the United States, a man pregnant with ideas, a man pregnant with creativity. And he sat down, and poor old William Howard Taft waddles up to the podium, and he pats his stomach and says, well, ladies and gentlemen, if it be a girl, I'll name him, or I'll name her Kathleen. If it be a boy, I'll name him William. But if, as I suspect, it be gas, I'll name it Chauncey Depew. That reminds me of something. I don't know what that's about. So anyway, it's great to be with all of you today, and I really appreciate it. I think this is my third time here, and I've always admired what we do in Boise State. I think it's a wonderful program. It's about celebrating our democracy. In the end, no one can take that away from us. We have a vibrant and vital democracy. No matter what happens in elected politics, a variety of other things, our democracy is very strong. 240 years, and a worthy democracy it is, and one that you will now carry on, and for that I'm really grateful. So what I'm supposed to talk about a little bit is about leadership. Before I did that, what I thought I would share with you, you know, I've been university president for 38 years, half my life, if you think about that. And so one of the things that I enjoy is the fact that I get these letters. Can you see this? I get these notes and letters from students all the time. I thought I'd just read a couple of them to you. I went around the state. I go around the state, and some of you I may have run into. I go around the state and I talk about what the university is about, and I keep telling you we're going to move from excellence to eminence. That's what we're going to do. We're going to move from excellence to eminence. And so I got this note recently because we've been in the recruiting process. It says, Dear President Gee, I'm a senior in high school, and I'm trying to decide between Penn State and West Virginia University for college. Now I know. When I heard you speak recently, I was very impressed with your message about moving West Virginia University from excellence to impotence. That kid's going to Penn State, by the way. There's no doubt about that. And then this one I really enjoyed. So it said, Dear President, you know, we have spring break in the spring, obviously, and so this one I got, which I thought was very funny. I'm planning a spring break trip with my best friend from the University of Cincinnati, and we have enlisted 6 female cheerleaders to join us for the whole week in sunny Miami. But when we went to book flights, you can imagine my disappointment to find out that our colleges have conflicting spring break schedules. I am writing to ask you if you could push West Virginia University's spring break back a week. You're the only one with the power to help make a 19-year-old man's dream come true of a half-dozen girls and a remote beach house 1,200 miles away, which I thought was... But no. Sit down, guys. But this is what I thought was really funny. He says, of course, if you help out, you are more than welcome to join us. I had a hell of a good time in Miami. I want you to know that. So anyway, some of you may know I've been doing this so long. So I chaired the President's Commission of the NCAA, the Reform Commission for college football, and then I was in charge of the second commission. And I've always been opposed to a playoff for college football. I've never thought we should have a playoff. I thought it was the devil's handiwork that we have. And of course, when Ohio State went and won, I thought it was better. But anyway, so I was recently being interviewed in the Dallas Morning News, and I said I'm still opposed to a college playoff. And so all of a sudden, I started receiving all these notes and letters that said, "Dear Dr. Key, as per your opposition to a football playoff, you need to have your head examined by a proctologist," which I thought was very funny. I received a letter, dear Dr. Gator, I received a letter from another fan from Brooklyn. Ray, West Virginia University Athletics and College Football Playoff. Dear Dr. Gee, you idiot. And then this one is, the next one said, may the spray of a million polecats descend upon your office and linger there for eternity. And then the final one I thought was very funny. For doing your part in ruining college football for legions of fans, you suck. And so I decided, so I looked at this one. It came in about 9:30 at night, and so I sent back a note. This one came from Brian. It said, "Dear Brian, I've just received this email supposedly from you. Someone must have your email account, which you should check." To which he replied, "Dear President Gee, I have no idea you actually read your emails." He was one of my students, if you can imagine that. Please do not withhold my diploma. I did. So anyway, it's great to be with all of you. So let's talk about leadership. Every one of you are leaders, and so when I think about it, I think about it from this point of view. I think about it that all of you are going to have great opportunity to celebrate, and you're celebrating here. You wouldn't have been chosen without being here. So this is a celebration, and you should celebrate every achievement you have. But I think if someone were to ask me, for a 17 or 18-year-old, what would be the most important piece of advice I could give them? I'd say, learn from your mistakes. Celebrate the great things and learn from your mistakes. And so what I thought I'd do, I'd spend a few minutes talking a little bit about some of the mistakes I've made, and then hopefully we can talk about some of these things and anything else you want to talk about. So the first mistake I made was becoming university president. I don't say that. I say that sort of tongue-in-cheek because I've had a wonderful life. I've been president of these magnificent institutions, West Virginia, Colorado, Ohio State, Brown, Vanderbilt, Ohio State again. I actually retired, and I moved to Boston. I was teaching at Harvard University when they asked me to come back and run West Virginia, and I couldn't get back fast enough. And by the way, one of the reasons is the fact that I met this is my new fiance. Come here, stand up here. What do you think, huh? She's great. And if I would have never moved back to West Virginia, I wouldn't have met Lori. And she's a great West Virginian. Loves this place. And so I've always loved West Virginia. It's a very special place. Wonderful people, warm, supportive. The university is perhaps the most important economic engine in the state. Many of you know that we are the largest employer in the state. Our budget's about $3 billion. We are the single most powerful economic engine in the state. We produce more jobs, but we can't think about that from that point of view, because those of you who come to the university will be the teachers and the civil engineers and the physicians and the lawyers who run this state. So we have an enormous impact. So being the president of a university is a very special calling, but I was just too early at it. I really didn't understand what I was doing, and so I had to learn on the job. And so what I tell everyone is, don't be too ambitious too early. Have you ever thought about that? One of the things I find out from young people right now, and this is you, this new generation, is the fact very often what I hear is the fact that you're worrying about what is the next job or the next opportunity rather than doing well what you're doing now. And the point is, if you do well what you're doing now, you'll get the next job and you won't even have to apply for it. So don't be too ambitious too early. The second thing I learned when I was a new president of West Virginia University. So I'm brand new, 36, can hardly spell university. I was having a hard time. I had been dean of the law school for about 2 years, and then I became president of the university. I think the law faculty wanted me to move, so they made me president of the institution. But anyway, so here I am, president of the university, and I'm having a real struggle. And these two old guys came, and I thought maybe they were old. They were probably about 40, but I thought they were old. One was the dean of the library, and the other was the chair of the Department of English. You can imagine what these guys looked like. Sort of had to screw their shoes on and off. Anyway, they came in. They sat down with me. They said, "Mr. President, you are failing. You're just doing an awful job." And I wasn't encouraged by that. I want you to know that. And so I said, "Well, why do you think that is?" And they said, "Well, you don't look and you don't act and you don't talk like a university president. You know, you sort of look like Orville Redenbacher." But anyway, so I thought about that, and I said, I wear bow ties, I wear Argyle socks, I go out late at night with the students, have a great time, all that kind of stuff. I love to go to 21st birthday parties. I'll tell you about that sometime. But anyway, so here I am doing all these things, and so I thought, oh my gosh, I need to look and act like one. So I started wearing long ties and wearing three-piece suits and trying to be much more dignified. And two things happened. One is the fact I was still failing. And secondly, I was miserable. I was just absolutely miserable. So you know what I decided to do? I decided, hey, listen, if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail on my own. And I'm just going to have fun at doing all of this. And so here it is, 38 years later, I'm still a university president, and those guys are dead. And the reason I tell that story is the fact that all too often, and this is something that you need to learn, people want you to be who they want you to be rather than who you are. Each of us have really God-given talents, and a lot of us have deficits. But the point is play to your talents. Be who you are. Don't let someone else define you. And in this world in which we have the internet and which we have Google and then obviously we have Twitter and Instagram. Can I borrow one of these things right here? What we discover is that everyone wants you to be like someone else. Wow, that's good. So anyway, so remember that that it's important for you to be who you are rather than what other people are going to define you. And I think that's very important. The other thing is take your work seriously, but don't take yourself too seriously. How many of you know, now this wouldn't happen to the people that I work with like Blake, but how many of you know people who when they're elected to something or when they move up something, all of a sudden they become who they aren't. They kind of become full of it, right? They don't take they take themselves too seriously. They think I'm in charge, so I'm the king, and the answer is they're not. So what we have to do is we have to really realize that it's important to take what your work is seriously. But if you take yourself too seriously, I think you lose your ability to be able to be a leader, and that is really a serious problem. The three ingredients for success as university president, as a leader, as anyone, I think are three things. One, have a good sense of humor. Right? I heard that. Two, have a very thick skin. And three, have nerves like sewer pipes. And I'll talk about those. So first of all, in terms of having a thick skin, I think particularly in today's world, where there's all this kind of social commentary going on. I mean, if you're a leader, you're going to be criticized. In fact, if you're not criticized, you're not a leader, because you're not making decisions, you're not doing the right kinds of things, and so therefore, you have to have a very thick skin. You have to make certain that you understand that when people are criticizing you, they're not criticizing you as a person. And this is something that I had to learn and it was very hard. They're not criticizing you as a person, but what they're criticizing is the fact that you're in charge and they're not. And remember this, when you're in charge, you have more information to make a decision than they do. And if they're so damn smart, they should make it anyway. You know, in other words, I think it's terribly important that you understand that criticism is just part of the name. The second thing is you have to have a good sense of humor. I still remember, I'll tell a couple of Colorado stories. I still remember when I was president of the University of Colorado, Colorado was playing Nebraska in a great football game. Nebraska was ranked number 1, Colorado was ranked number 2. Oh, yeah, well, be quiet. He's from Boys Nation, too. I'm going to try this again. And so anyway, so I'm speaking to a group of people in Colorado Springs, 400 people. And so I got up and said, I've discovered what the N on the Nebraska helmet stands for, which is, of course, knowledge.
Yeah, we've heard that many times.
Yeah, okay, and then the second thing is Nebraska football players aren't dumb just because they have printed on their helmet heads up and on their shoes, toes first. But anyway, I thought it was kind of funny. Well, the thing that happened was the fact that it was printed in the local newspaper, and then it was printed in the Lincoln, Nebraska Star-Times, and I discovered 2 things about Nebraskans. One is the fact that they love their football team, and secondly, they have no sense of humor. And so, I mean, it was horrible. And so you just have to have a sense of humor and let that go with you. The third thing, this nerves like sewer pipe thing. So here I am, the president of Ohio State. I walked out of my office one day, and they're digging a big hole, and they're uncovering the sewer pipes, but they're still good. I said, well, why are we uncovering these? And they said, well, they're 100 years old. We need to expand on them. But they were still good. They were just exactly what I think you'd want to have. And so it kind of reminded me of what it is about being a leader, because you just have to, when you make a decision, you have to live with it. I was the brand new president of the University of Colorado. I'm standing up to be introduced, and I turn to the chairman of the board, and I say, Mr. Chairman, what do you want me to say? I thought he was going to say, well, we're going to win Nobel Prizes, or we're going to write the great English, the great American novel, or something like that. And instead he said to me, tell him you're going to fire the damn football coach. I mean, I'm 40 years old. I don't know, and I obviously still know nothing about football. So they had this football coach by the name of Bill McCartney. Bill McCartney was statistically the worst football coach in America. He had gone 1-10 3 years in a row. And so I'm brand new. I wasn't going to say that on the introduction, but I called him in 6 weeks later to fire him. And this was just when ESPN started, 1985. And so there were all the cameras, there were all the sports writers, about 100, 150 of them. And so I sat down with him. Now, 2 things about Bill McCartney. One was the fact that he is a very religious man, a charismatic Catholic. And the second thing is he was charismatic anyway. He could talk like a storm. And so I sit down with him. He says, Mr. President, I know you're going to fire me, but before you do, let me tell you about our football team. And so he proceeds to mesmerize me. He says, we're going to run the veer offense, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And so after an hour and a half, I got up, walked out, and I said to the gathered press, I said, well, ladies and gentlemen, I have just extended Coach McCartney's contract for 5 years. I mean, they nearly had a riot. The board of trustees met the next day in secret session to fire me, but I'd only been there 6 weeks, so they couldn't figure out how to fire me. And so, all of a sudden, for the first and last time, I went to every football game, home and away, and I carried his headset on the field, because if he didn't win, I was toast. But I decided I was going to stick with my decision. And so, and by the way, one of the funny things is the fact, as I told you, he's very religious. These kids would run off and say, Coach, my arm is broken. He's put his hand on their head and say, you're healed, and send them back. But anyway, it worked. And so we went 7-4. Colorado went 7-4 that year. One of the great turnarounds in college football. In the meantime, because of the decision I had made, I got this was before email. I got over 8,000 letters. All of them opposed to what I had done, except 2. And I think one was from his wife and one was from his daughter. I have no idea. But anyway, so I had all these 8,000 letters. We went 7-4. But the point is 5 years later, University of Colorado played Notre Dame in a great football game and won the national championship. Nerves like sewer pipes, right? And one of the greatest moments in my life was the fact that I took all 8,000 of those letters. I sent a personal note to each one of those people. Revenge is good. Remember that, okay? So, I could talk about a number of other things. I think that in terms of leadership, you have to learn to never accept mediocrity. Never accept mediocrity. You've got to hold everyone to a very high standard, including yourself. I think you need to understand that you always have a responsibility to the people you work around. Trust people, but also expect trust from them. But I think the thing that I want to tell you on the very end, and then we'll open ourselves up for question, is the fact that I am a workaholic. I'm just going to say this. And I'm not very proud of that. I had a friend send me a picture about 2 or 3 years ago. It was a picture of me, and then it had below it a definition of workaholic. You know, I mean, if I remember, you know, if they had Workaholics Anonymous, I'd be Gordon, and I'm here. But anyway, because what I've always felt was that my work was more important than my family or my friends. And the end result, of course, is that you become a very unidimensional person. My wife, Elizabeth, died when my daughter was 15, and the night before she died, I was at an alumni meeting in Dayton, Ohio. I'll never forgive myself for that. So the point is the fact that now I've got this wonderful woman. I promise her I'm going to be really balanced, and she brings balance to my life. But I really think that one of the most important things that you can learn from life is the fact that there is nothing more important than your family and your friends, and your work will grow. I would have been a much better university president if I had spent less time working and more time doing the kinds of things that I should have done. So remember that balance in life is terribly important. So saying that, what kinds of questions can I answer for all of you guys? Yes.
Kyle Sharon from Braxton College. I know you're opposed of like college
Football?
playoffs,
Mm-hmm.
but are you opposed of like Marshall and WVU ever playing again?
Oh no, I would be all right about that. But you know, I mean, this is really the truth. This is the way that it is. You know, so this is kind of a truth serum. You know, because we're a member of a Power 5 conference, and now in order to get into the college playoff ourselves, we have to play teams that are highly ranked. And so if we play teams that are in-state rivals or a variety of other things, it does not help us on our.
Money for the state, though.
I know it certainly does, and I'm a great fan of the coach down there. I hired him at West Virginia University when I was here the first time. But I didn't hear that. He said I can have him back if we want. So anyway, so that's the answer to that question. I think that you're always expected when you're in the Power 5 conference, you're always expected to win. If you lose, then it's a disaster to you. So there's always that point of view. Hi.
Jaron Bragg from Marion College. They said that you worked with someone with the Supreme Court.
I did. I worked for the Chief Justice of the United States.
Do you have any interesting stories about that?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of interesting stories about that. I went as the White. There was something called the White House Fellows Program. The judiciary started one called the Judicial Fellows Program, but I was there. So I spent a year with the Chief Justice, who is both the Chief Administrative Officer. He's the Chief Justice, one of 9, but he's also the Chief Administrative Officer of the federal court system. And so that's what I did my first year. But then a little thing came along called Watergate. And so I spent the second year. As one of his senior lawyers working on that case. Nixon versus the United States was a case that I worked on very carefully. Can't say a lot about it because that's confidential, but it was fun. It was interesting. It was a constitutional crisis, and I wouldn't give up that in the world. So it was great fun. Yeah. Yes.
My name is Ranson. I'm from Kanawha County. And my question is, when you have speakers like Milo that came into WVU and you kind of have a crisis like that to deal with, what are some of the pressures and responsibilities that come along with that, and how do you deal with allowing speakers like that to come back?
Milo Yiannopoulos. He's a very he's a fellow who is very controversial, very much on the far right. But I have a very strong philosophy, and that is the fact that universities are the only place in the country where you can really where we're all about ideas. You know, we don't produce cars, we don't produce widgets, we don't produce anything else. We produce ideas, and we produce people who generate those ideas, and that's you. And so, how can you possibly be a university and disinvite people or not allow people to come and speak? I mean, good ideas, bad ideas, awful ideas, obnoxious ideas, offensive ideas, everything ought to be free. We have gotten in this country to be so politically correct that we are afraid to say what we really think. And I think that is, the point about it is that good ideas will prevail, and the marketplace will sustain them. But the minute that someone refuses to allow someone to come and speak, they're no longer a university. They've turned themselves into a technical school, and I just think that that's awful. Yes, sir.
James Inman, Braxton College. Sir, a few weeks ago, Vice President Pence was giving a commencement speech at Notre Dame, and as a Catholic, I was very ashamed to see about 100 students walk out on him. As a university president, how would you have handled that situation? Would you have withheld their degrees?
I'm not certain I would have withheld their degrees. I would have been, the issue of civility is an important component in this country, and I think that if we are not doing a good enough job in terms of civic education on our campus, that people will engage in uncivil behavior, and that's what that is. I think that's inappropriate. I had a funny thing happen. So, University of Colorado story. So this was in the middle of a lot of confrontation in the middle of the 1980s, and the CIA wanted to come on and interview on campus, and so the students for Colorado is a very active campus, a very I had a lot of problems there in terms of just activity, and so they wanted to come on to campus. The CIA did, and so I thought I'd outsmart them, and so the kids and I said, well, if anyone signs up, then we're going to invite them onto campus. But if they don't, I thought, well, no one would sign up. Well, hell, 150 of them signed up. You know, they were going to test me, and so they were in a little house where they were interviewing, and students came, about 800 of them came, and they locked arms, and they refused to let the CIA in. So I called in the National Guard and arrested every one of them, And you know what I did though, it was great fun, is we took them to the stadium, and they would just process them and let them go. But I got names of a number of them. I called up their parents, and so again, a lot of changed behavior when you call up parents. And so kids are very brave until their dad says, "What you did is just wrong." Yes, sir.
Zach Leisure, Braxton Cottage, sir. Dr. D, when you came to Charleston Catholic about a month, 2 months ago, you had mentioned West Virginia trying to keep young people in the state and bringing industry into the state. What steps are you taking, and more specifically, what steps is West Virginia University taking to ensure that young people do come back to the state?
Well, first of all, I tell everyone we're going to build a wall around West Virginia. And we're going to have Ohio pay for it. How does that sound? I think you've asked the key question for West Virginia. We're at a tipping point. We're at a transitional point. Wonderful state, wonderful people. The one thing that I know about West Virginians is they really love West Virginia. But we've done four things that are wrong. We've exported coal, we've exported oil, we've exported gas, but the most important export has been our people. We have exported people. We have not provided enough opportunity, enough jobs, enough other things. But you know, every time I run into a West Virginia, I'm going to be in Shanghai, China, on Saturday, and I know that I'll see West Virginians there. First thing they'll say, I'm from West Virginia. That's what they do, whether you're Shanghai, Singapore, or Keokuk, Iowa. And I love to tell the story, by the way. I was with our football team 2 years ago at a bowl game, and we're in Scottsdale, Arizona, at a great hotel. This woman comes up to me, and she says, I'm from West Virginia. I say, how wonderful. And I say, what are you doing? She said, I run this hotel. I said, how long have you been here? 19 years. And I said, this must be the most wonderful job. You're here in this beautiful sunshine, and you have all of these things going on, and you have this great job without losing a moment. She said, find me a job in West Virginia. And I think that shows that we have done an awful job of creating a great opportunity for ourselves. Now, by the way, I'm very bullish on West Virginia. So what we're doing is the fact that we've got McKinsey, the greatest consulting firm in the country. We're going around. We've done a great study of how we can reposition West Virginia. We're in God's time zone, in the Eastern time zone. We're within driving distance of 2/3 of the American population, and we just have to think differently about ourselves. You know, we spend too much time in negative elitism instead of talking about all the great assets we have. And there's nothing that irritates me more than when I hear someone say, isn't it wonderful that we can drive to Chicago or New York or Pittsburgh or Washington? What we ought to be saying, isn't it wonderful that the people from Pittsburgh and Chicago and New York can get out of those damn awful cities and drive to West Virginia and enjoy themselves, right? So what we have to do is, first of all, we've got to convince you to stay. And then secondly of all, we've got to create jobs that are worthy of young people. We've got to make West Virginia cool. I mean, right? We've got to make it cool. We've got to make it a place because the people love the state. I'll give you one example again. So I moved from West Virginia to Colorado. Now, people love to move to Colorado, but not because they love Colorado, because they like the skiing and riding, but they had no spiritual connection. No one says, I'm from Colorado. They say, I'm in Aspen or right. They had no relationship. There is a spiritual sense about the people of this state that I've never seen in any other place. And that's something that is our greatest strength, and we need to capture that. Questions? Yes, sir.
I'm Alexander Freeland from Marion. What was the exact tipping point that you knew you wanted to go into this career?
I'm totally accidental. I really am. I had no idea I was going to be doing what I'm doing. I had come up. I'd come up through the law, and I had become a dean of a law school, and the president of West Virginia University left, become the chancellor of the University of Kansas, a guy by the name of Gene Budig, and they started a hunt for a president. They appointed the most prominent lawyer in the state, Charlie Wise, to chair the search committee. He put on a predominant number of lawyers. I think that they decided they want to have a lawyer as president, and I was the only one available. So I literally was an accident. So I would not trade it for the world, but remember what I said. I think that coming at something too early, I sort of missed the middle part of my life in many ways. I'm still hunting to have a midlife crisis. Not really. I'm still hunting to have a midlife crisis. The point is the fact that I didn't think about it, but I would not trade what I do for the world. And the reason is all of you. Every day I think about the privilege I have of working with great, bright young people. You're the future. I have something to do with that, and so that's a very ennobling thing for me. It really is. Questions? Yes?
Brian Schuster from Braxton Cottage. What is going to be your reaction when the Huskers return to their former glory and become the greatest football?
I heard that. That's right. Go Big Red.
Well, no. Okay, hold on here. That'll never happen because they'll have to go through Morgantown, West Virginia. So there you go. Yes, sir.
I have over
I have over 1,000. I have over 1,000, right? I have over 1,000, and then I have 1,000 in retirement. Yeah, I'll send you one. I'm not giving you this one. This is one of my favorites. So but I'll send you one. Yeah. Oh, and I'll teach you how to tie it too. In fact, where are you going to school in a year from now?
Martinsburg High School.
Yeah, we were at Martinsburg, and did I send you a tie?
No, you sent Carlos Castillo.
Oh, I'll send you one. Yeah, let's do it. This is the end of the game here, pretty soon. But the other thing I do is, so I have about 1,000 in retirement, and I have these identical granddaughters, and I make it into quilts to send to them. So it's a great thing to do. So that's great. So get your name. We'll get it. Okay, good. All right.
Logan Creighton, Braxton Cottage. I'm curious to what your thoughts are on the use of medical marijuana in the state of West Virginia.
Well, that's an interesting question. Wait a second. So I will tell you, we're very blessed to have one of the great academic medical centers in the country. In fact, we were just ranked 6th in the nation. Not a lot of people know that, and right behind the Mayo Clinic. And medical marijuana has its uses. So I'm not opposed to medical marijuana. I would just want to make certain that we control it. Now, my former state, Colorado, they legalized marijuana, and now they're having all sorts of social problems. So we have to be very careful about that. But as with any controlled substance, it can be very useful for things like Meniere's disease and a variety of other things. And so I think we ought to be serious about it, but we ought to be serious about it from the point of view of not just having it be willy-nilly. I think that's important. So we got people over here. Yes, sir.
Ryan Akey, Upshur County. I was wondering if you could, by chance, ask Dana Holgerson to watch my highlight film.
Absolutely. 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 Come here. Come here. That's great. I'd like to do that.
Thank you. Appreciate that, sir. Thank you very much.
So what do you play, Ryan?
When do I play?
What do you play?
What do I play? Defensive end.
We can use you. I mean, they may have to put me in this year. I have no idea. No, I'm serious. You Gordon.Gee at mail.wvu.edu. You sent it to me. Okay, great. Excuse me. Okay, wait a second, everyone.
I'm Austin from Kanawha Cottage, originally from Randolph. This is an opinion-based question. Do you think Marshall will ever realize after getting their butt kicked so many times that we're just better than them in every aspect?
Truthfully, I don't think they ever will. Yeah. No, we need baseball players. Our baseball team has ended up in the top 20 this year, as you know. One last question. Okay. Let's see here. You were way out there. Okay. Yes. None of your damn business.
Stuff for you.
Great, thank you.
That's it. Wait until they sit down because I'm kind of short.
Okay, there we go.